we do?
We fight.
So Captain America, Civil War just turned 10 years old. And at the anniversary event, Joe Russo sat down and said something about Spider-Man that completely broke my brain. Not a tease, not a hint for a future film. He straight up confirmed that the MCU's Peter Parker has been missing the most important part of his character this entire time. And when you hear it, you'll realize you felt it too. You just couldn't name what was off. Okay, here's exactly what happened. CBR sat down with Joe and Anthony Russo to mark 10 years since Captain America, Civil War.
The movie Civil War started the Civil War within Marvel. If all we do is keep playing the same note over and over again.
And someone asked a very simple question. Did MCU Peter Parker feel responsible for Uncle Ben's death? And Joe Russo said no. In our minds, no. He wasn't responsible for Uncle Ben's death. Then he went further. What Tom Holland is as an actor, if he blamed himself for his Uncle Ben's death, I think he becomes a very different character. That would have been a more intense interpretation of the character. Come on. For 10 years, fans assumed the MCU skipped showing Uncle Ben's death because we'd already seen it twice. Sam Raimi did it in 2002. Sony did it again in 2012. We didn't need a third round, but that wasn't the reason at all. The Russos didn't skip it to spare us the repetition. They skipped it because in their version, it simply doesn't carry the weight it usually does. Peter didn't let a robber walk past. Peter didn't make a choice that got his uncle killed. In their mind, Uncle Ben died in an accident. Full stop. And Peter Parker has been operating without his most foundational motivation this entire time. Here's the thing though, looking back now, I can see the evidence was always there. In Civil War, Tony asks Peter why he does any of this. Why put on the suit? Why risk his life for strangers? And Peter says, when you can do the things that I can, but you don't, and then the bad things happen, they happen because of you.
When you can do the things that I can, but you don't, and then the bad things happen.
For a decade, every Spider-Man fan heard that and thought, oh, that's the Uncle Ben reference. That's the nod. That's how they're acknowledging the guilt without showing the scene. Russo just confirmed that reading was wrong. Peter wasn't talking about Uncle Ben. He was talking about a general worldview, a belief that power comes with obligation. That line that everyone assumed was secretly carrying Ben's death, it's just how Peter thinks, which is fascinating and, honestly, a little hollow. In every other version of this character, that line is a wound. There's also the luggage in Far From Home. Peter's suitcase is engraved with BFP. Director John Watts later confirmed it stands for Benjamin Franklin Parker, Uncle Ben's full name. So Ben is dead. He's acknowledged. The monogram is there, but he died off screen without urgency in circumstances Peter couldn't control. Pretty much the smallest role a character can play in someone's origin story. I'm doing a $100 Amazon gift card giveaway to celebrate when this channel reaches 1,000 subscribers. No action is required to enter. I'll randomly pick a winner once we hit the milestone. If you want to follow the journey or see the winner announcement, feel free to subscribe. Okay. To be fair to the Russos, the logic here isn't completely crazy. When they were developing Civil War in 2015, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 had just come out the year before, and it was exhausting. The Amazing Spider-Man series had spent 2 films trying to establish Uncle Ben's death, re-tease the origin, then pile Electro, Green Goblin, Rhino, and a Sinister Six setup into one chaotic sequel. Critics tore it apart, audiences checked out. The last thing anyone wanted in 2016 was another slow burn Peter Parker origin, another dead uncle, another radioactive spider bite. Tom Holland was going to be young, sharp, and completely different. Burdening him with the same guilt that anchored the Maguire and Garfield versions would have pulled him toward exactly what they were trying to escape. I get it, but here's where I think they miscalculated. The guilt was never what made Spider-Man heavy. It was what made him human. It was why the jokes landed, because you knew what was underneath them. Take away the wound, and the humor becomes just jokes. Fun, sure, but lightweight. You can see that in Homecoming and Far From Home. Holland's Peter is lovable, genuinely entertaining, but something never quite grips you the way you want it to. There's a likable kid in the suit, but the stakes never feel truly personal. Honestly, for 2 full films, I never completely bought that Peter would sacrifice everything for strangers, because we never understood where that impulse came from. Now this is where Russos actually did, and I'll give them credit for the construction, even if I disagree with the choice. They delayed the guilt, they didn't remove it, they relocated it. May Parker delivers with great power, there must also come great responsibility in No Way Home, right before she dies, in a situation Peter caused.
Catch my breath. Okay, we catch your breath. I'm right here. We're gonna take our time. You catch your breath and and then we'll take you to a doctor, okay?
The Green Goblin killed her, but Peter asked Strange to cast the spell. Peter brought the multiverse villains in. Peter made the decisions that led to that rooftop. So the Russos built a 3-film origin, an entire trilogy leading Peter to a moment of guilt that functions identically to what Ben's death traditionally provides. He had the power, he didn't use it carefully, and someone he loved died because of it. I think not acknowledging that is one of the biggest misreads in the current conversation. People are treating Russo's confirmation as proof that MCU Peter is broken. But really, No Way Home completed something Civil War started. It just took 3 films to get there. Now nobody knows this, but Joe Russo's confirmation covers Civil War. That's it. 1 film, his lane, everything in the Home trilogy, Homecoming, Far From Home, No Way Home. That was John Watts. A different director, a different read, a completely different creative relationship with the character. And Watts, in every single interview about Uncle Ben over 6 years, refused to give a clear answer. He didn't say Ben wasn't the motivation. He didn't confirm he was. He kept it deliberately open, which means Watts may have been quietly building toward a version of Peter where Uncle Ben's death carries exactly the weight it traditionally does. We just never got to that chapter. Brand New Day isn't a Watts film either. It's directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, who has already earned serious trust with Shang-Chi. And according to rumors circulating right now, Brand New Day is actively looking to engage with Uncle Ben in a way the Home trilogy never did. So here's the situation, guys. Russo just redefined the origin from his lane, but the filmmaker actually holding the wheel for Peter's future may have an entirely different plan. Either way, the Russo confirmation is canon to Civil War. What happens in Brand New Day could rewrite it completely. I think not treating those as separate creative decisions is where a lot of the current takes are going wrong. Now, let's talk about what's actually happening to Peter Parker's body, because I think it's directly connected to everything we just went through. 4 years after No Way Home, Peter is completely alone. Nobody remembers who he is. No MJ, no Ned, no Tony Stark's tech, no Avengers safety net. And his DNA is mutating in ways nobody can explain. He's growing organic web shooters. His strength has jumped so far that he slingshots himself off a building and visibly panics at how far he goes. His spider sense is so amplified that a single drip of water sends it into overdrive. And he wakes up inside a cocoon of his own making. Come on, that's horrifying. This is a man losing control of his own body, and the film is treating it exactly that way. Bruce Banner, according to what we see in the trailer, tells Peter he's becoming something dangerous. I think the MCU has deliberately stripped Peter of everything external across 3 films.
DNA is mutating. It would be enormously dangerous.
Tony's suits, Happy's support, MJ and Ned's memories, his identity. Now they're taking the last external thing he had, the Stark engineered web shooters. His body is replacing his one remaining dependency. Tony once said, "If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it."
It's all I have. I'm nothing without this suit.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
A decade later, Peter's biology has apparently taken that personally. The organic webs also pull directly from a 2005 comic storyline called The Other. Spider-Man underwent a near-death transformation, emerged from a cocoon, and came out the other side with organic webbing and a completely different relationship to what being a spider actually means. Brand New Day's trailer is practically quoting that arc shot for shot. However, in the comics, The Other eventually set the stage for One More Day and then Brand New Day, the exact storyline this film takes its title from. In those comics, Peter made a deal with Mephisto that erased his marriage and reset his entire life. A clean slate bought at a personal cost. Doctor Strange's spell in No Way Home is the MCU's version of that deal. Peter traded everyone's memory of him for a fresh start. The title is a blueprint, and the filmmakers know exactly what they're building toward. Hold on, Peter Parker gave up everyone who remembered his name just to keep doing the right thing. The least you can do is subscribe. It takes 3 seconds. He gave up MJ. You can spare 3 seconds. Go subscribe. You did? Good. Now, something I need to address, because I've seen a lot of people in the comments of every Brand New Day trailer video completely miss this. A huge chunk of the internet has labeled Peter's mutation as a power upgrade, something to get hyped about. A cool new ability Marvel is gifting the character? I think not. The trailer is is deliberately framing this as a horror story. Peter waking up inside a cocoon he built while asleep, eyes going dark mid-sentence, strength spiking so far beyond his control that he physically terrifies himself. These are symptoms of something going wrong. Some people have pointed to the Six Arms saga from Amazing Spider-Man issue 100 back in 1971 as the comic blueprint here. In that story, Peter takes an experimental serum trying to cure himself of his powers entirely, and instead grows 4 extra arms overnight. Genuinely horrifying. And yes, you can see visual echoes of that storyline in what the trailer is suggesting, but I think the more precise comparison is the other, which I mentioned earlier. Because that arc wasn't just about mutation. It was about Spider-Man dying and being reborn as something closer to what a spider actually is. More instinctive, more predatory, less human. Brand New Day seems to be asking a very specific question. What happens when Peter Parker stops being the man in the spider suit and starts becoming the spider? And that question connects directly back to the origin problem. Because the answer in the comics was always Uncle Ben. The guilt was what kept Peter human. It was the anchor. The thing that stopped the power from consuming him entirely. If the MCU's Peter never fully had that anchor, and now his body is mutating beyond his control, you can see exactly where this is heading. Brand New Day might not be a Spider-Man movie, primarily about facing a villain. It might be a Spider-Man movie about Peter finally facing himself. Okay, personally, I think Russo's confirmation is genuinely interesting. It does reframe how you watch Civil War. That hotel room conversation hits differently knowing Tony wasn't responding to a grieving kid. He was responding to a kid who just believes this stuff.
You're the Spiderling, crime-fighting spider. You're Spider-Boy?
But I think treating it as a catastrophic retcon misses the bigger picture entirely. The Russos built a Peter who has no direct guilt over Ben. That's their version. John Watts then spent 3 films quietly constructing a replacement guilt that functions identically. May's death, the spell, the isolation. And now destined Daniel Cretton is inheriting that Peter at his absolute lowest. A body changing against his will. A city that's forgotten him. And if the rumors are right, a ghost from his past that the MCU has been avoiding for an entire decade finally showing up. I think Brand New Day is the first time we might actually get the complete Peter Parker. Not the Russos' lightweight version, not Watts' carefully ambiguous version, the fully formed one. And if Uncle Ben shows up in this film, even in flashback, even for 60 seconds, it's going to hit harder than any version of this story we've seen on screen. Because Peter has earned it now. He's been through 3 films of being charming and likable, but slightly hollow at the center. Brand New Day looks like the film that fills that hole. Come on. After all this time, that's the film I want to see. Drop one in the comments. Who do you think doesn't make it out of episode 8? Who are you most worried about? Drop your finale prediction below. See you in the next one.